Whoa, straight in. Good morning wherever you are. Evening wherever you are. Afternoon wherever you are. It's 11 a.m. here in sunny Brisbane. It's probably about 9 a.m. I would say in Beijing, where we have Baidu World 2024. I was invited by Baidu directly to do this live stream. It's going to be super casual, super quiet. In the background you'll see our lead-up trailer there. They're getting prepared. CEO Robin Lee should be on stage. Then we have the CTO on stage, and they're going to be talking about applications rather than any new model. It was this time last year that Baidu launched ERNIE 4.0, about the same power as GPT-4 by OpenAI, maybe a year and a bit later. But in general, Chinese region is doing exceptional things in the world of artificial intelligence. And we're going to be having a little look at the live stream in a moment. This is the prep video from just a few hours ago about what's happening in the main hall. This is actually, in Shanghai. It's at the Shanghai Expo Center there. I have been there before. This is a beautiful part of the world. Baidu themselves based in Beijing for their headquarters, but Shanghai, being the financial capital of the world besides NYC and Hong Kong and Singapore, gets a bit more of a showing here and is probably a cool place to put this particular announcement. As I mentioned, no new models today. This will be pretty much just a look at applications as they are being built into anything, and the Chinese do build this into anything. You've got Weibo there, you've got applications that are available for credit card usage, but their own currency, their own cryptocurrency and digital currency for the whole nation in some cases. It's a really interesting place to be. What's happening in the background there? Let's have a bit of a closer look about what's going on in our not quite live stream.
我要全力以赴，就立在这巅峰。但没人能永远在高光时刻。已抵达过顶峰，我的下一个目标在哪里？
And we'll have a live Chinese interpreter joining us in a moment. If you don't want to sit with me in our very casual atmosphere here, just hanging out with each other, you can watch the official live stream, and I'll post that in the chat in just a moment. Take a quick look at ERNIEBot's progression over the years while we're waiting. This is the main competitor to Claude, the main competitor to GPT, the main competitor to Meta's Llama and xAI's Grok. Started out in 2019 with the release of ERNIE 1.0, and we don't actually have ERNIE 4.0 on this chart, but you can see just how quickly they release new models, how quickly they push through with advances. Leaning on US advances, but these guys are able to come up with their own advances as well. Have a look at how quickly they came up with the chopsticks from, who was that again? From the chopsticks from SpaceX. You remember that? The thing that caught the rocket as it was landing. This was only a few weeks ago. China has gone and replicated that, and they have their own version already. This is a huge undertaking. That's a huge platform. It's about 24 stories high, apparently. So we're talking about a large amount of work and they were able to replicate that really, really quickly. We're seeing in most cases here the innovation from Baidu outperforming even what's happening in Silicon Valley. And I'm not sure how to explain that. You've got a lot of Chinese there. You've probably got 4 or 5 times the US population, about 300 million in the US, a billion plus in China, and they work 24/7. I know many of them, and they are hard workers, as are our friends in the Western world through California and beyond. Some of the innovations that we'll probably see today is how ERNIE 4 is being implemented across business, enterprise, in the home, and maybe even for like transport. I think that's going to be a big one, especially trying to get around the Chinese mainland. It's a really big part of how they get around. We'll probably also see it for finance as well, although they've got some pretty cool finance apps and have had them for quite a while. In the background there, you're watching our live stream fed from Baidu. If you don't want to hear me talking about it behind the scenes, you can just go and watch the official one. This is a super casual stream today. I've got a glass of electrolytes going on. Hope you're joining me from wherever you are with your own drink. You could bring a peppermint tea or a coffee. We'll sit back and see what Beijing and Shanghai have to offer. Something that is not normally getting visibility in the Western media. Reuters don't spend a lot of time talking about them. Who's the other big guys? Reuters is actually doing the best at the moment with coverage for AI, but we also have, let me grab them because they'll be top of mind in my memo links. Ars Technica does pretty well. New York Post is in there. The Register does pretty well as well. Slashdot, for those that were with me back in the 90s, Slashdot's still doing some cool coverage. There was some interesting coverage today on TechCrunch. I think Reuters and TechCrunch in particular seem to be on the bleeding edge of news for AI coverage from a Western media perspective. But if you want the best of the best, of course, come and join me in the memo. It's the same analysis that's used by Apple. Apple used it recently for their paper on Apple Intelligence. It's the same analysis that was discussed on Joe Rogan. It's the same analysis that's fed to full subscribers at Microsoft, Rand, PwC, Cirque du Soleil, Disney, Meta. That list goes on and on. 10,000 plus subscribers. Substack called it a bestseller. And if you want to stay up to date with AI in plain English, AI that matters as it happens, LifeArchitect.ai/memo. I don't even know what we're watching in the background here. Maybe I can talk over it slightly. A little bit of messing around here. I did work on the Red Bull Air Race back in Perth, back in, I can't even guess what year that was, maybe 2008. And I was involved with the technical direction team, but as the assistant sound engineer, not as the video engineer. So you'll have to excuse any of my clicking. Thanks for your feedback. I'm thinking thoughts. Welcome to La Will. This is not a formal live stream. This is a very, very casual live stream. Are we watching ads? Is that what we've been watching this whole time? Outrageous. Awesome. Glad that you're able to be kept up to date with everything that's going on in the world of AI and beyond. I've just set up my new Mac and I'm missing a little bit of stuff. So let me see if I can turn on our comments here. When was your last laptop version or update? Love to know in the chat. You're welcome to throw in where you're from as well. Let's see if we can get this comment in our... No, I don't think we can. Always something missing. I used migrate this time rather than a fresh install, and there's a tiny little piece missing from one of my hotkeys. That's all right. Let's go back to see what Baidu's doing. I love that there's just a completely different culture going on pretty close to us, and we really don't get a look in. Here in Australia, I'm sure you'd be the same in the US or Europe. It's almost isolating, and they have their own ads, they have their own TV, they have their own radio, they have their own payment methods. They obviously have their own culture. Fascinating to see. You could say that it's parallel to what we have here in terms of Hollywood movies and the rest of it. It's just, right now, kind of cool to check out what they're doing. I believe we're watching advertisements before we go live. They were supposed to go live 45 minutes ago. We've been hanging out to see what's going to happen. No worries either way. Welcome to Art and Thinking Thoughts in the Sunshine Coast. I'm going to turn up Baidu for a moment while I mess around with some hotkeys. Here we go.
我养的手工要生小宝宝啦，可是爸爸妈妈工作很忙，没有时间管我们。我该怎么照顾刚孵化的小手工呢？
幼体手工在孵化后的3到5天内，通常从残留的卵黄中获取营养，之后可以开始提供小体积的食物。
幸好有小莫送的 AI 相机，告诉我怎么照顾手工一家。
由于幼体手工需要较多的湿度来进行蜕皮，每天需要进行2次少量的喷水。
原来做爸爸妈妈这么不容易呀！我一定要好好照顾他们。希望我的爸爸妈妈玩完也可以陪我出去玩。
What if I told you we met before? Did the brush of my hand hit
行了，宝贝，
your eyes?
过来。
怎么样？我们的露营地？
哎，这是我的小手工哎。对啊，喜欢吗？嗯。
哎，你看它跑。
哎，在这儿。
If it was you, it was you and I.
大家好，我叫方，想想，
方想想呢是咱们班新的一员，来，让我们用热烈的掌声欢迎他加入咱们这个集体。好，同学们，把课本打开到第58页。今天我们要讲的是麻雀的故事。猎狗跑在我的面前，突然，我的猎狗放慢了脚步，悄悄地向前走。下课之前呢，我再宣布一件事情啊，咱们学校马上要举办一个形象大赛，可以展现咱们班级风采。有想法的同学呢，可以告诉我哦。
你还敢吃？你不要张老师的超能力？难道他每次都能发现？你们忘了？上次我们在书里乱涂乱画，画在第几页他都知道。是。还有，咱们班每个同学的优势他都了解。参加比赛的陈小雨游泳天赋就是他发现的，他真的什么都知道。上次来我家家访。我忘错了几次作业，做过几次义务劳动。
Man, what are these guys talking about? We're looking at commercials from commercial Chinese television, I reckon. We may have a delayed Baidu World 2024, but we get to hang out. Here's a little query from, here's a little comment from Thinking Thoughts. My shortcuts work now. Hi to Jackson, North Carolina. Hopefully we're going to see some cool stuff from Baidu. Not a new model, but we will be planning to see a new implementation of applications of their ERNIE 4.0 chatbot. And maybe some new smart glasses to compete with Meta's smart glasses. And maybe something else. Thanks to Tony from Baidu for inviting me in to livestream the livestream. We will have an English transcriber pair helping out with interpreter. Transcription for written, interpretation for spoken. We'll have 2 Chinese interpreters playing around with the live interpretation of what's happening on stage, beginning with CEO Robin Lee, hopefully. Let's see how we go. Hi to Steve from Oregon, hanging out in the US. This is a bit of a weird time for everyone. A lot of our Europeans provided apologies, given that it's, let's have a look here. Should be pretty easy to calculate. 1:30 a.m. in London. Just next door, 2:30 a.m. in Paris. Super casual live stream today. Seeing what Baidu's got for announcements. We did do this last year, but I just dumped the entire live stream, and it was an incredibly interesting live stream as well. It was the announcement of ERNIE 4.0, and they blew it out of the water. They really did. Some of our Western media were slamming the fact that it was pre-recorded. I don't think you could have done it any other way. Even if you look at OpenAI's announcements, they are pre-recorded live streams. So if something goes wrong, then you've still got that safety net. Let's have a little bit of a look at the 2023 version with their cool stage. These ads are boring me. Let's see if we can get a better view of this one. This was the stage that they had in, I think it was in Beijing for this one. Don't know if we'll be able to check. Yeah, there we go. Prompt the World. This time last year, Beijing Shougang Park We're in Shanghai this time. Well, maybe we're in Shanghai this time. I don't know how to close my chat window on the right-hand side there. Have a look at the size of that stage. I probably wouldn't choose a stage that big because he looks pretty small when he gets on stage. You'll see this in a moment. Robin Lee, the CEO, jumps up on there. It's the reason that Steve Jobs didn't have these massive arena stages. And that's because you probably don't want the contrast of being completely tiny on a massive, massive stage. Here's Robin Lee 1 year ago for the launch of Baidu ERNIE 4.0. No audio at the moment. I think I'll just create a ground loop or a big feedback loop if I turn the audio on there. But this was really interesting. This was where he was able to showcase what ERNIE could do. And in some cases, it was better than what GPT-4 could do. Really impressive to see what they had going on there. Maybe I can mix minus this. I am being pretty well tested with the limits of my abilities for some of these things, but we'll find a way.
So that you could version of ERNIE foundation model to date, upgraded in its entirety and in the full.
This is a look at 2023 Baidu World.
It has been significantly improved compared to the online version of ERNIE Bot now, and it is not inferior in any aspect to GPT-4. And the so-called AI native,
and you're seeing the 2024 version picture-in-picture at the top right there.
Based on the key capabilities of foundation model in understanding, generation, reasoning, and memory. They were not available in the past, and thus open up unlimited room for innovation in the future. And next, I will introduce these 4 capabilities in specific application scenarios, and that will be the real AI native applications. First of all, about the capability of understanding. And then this is where I feel the most magical after learning about foundation models. And we always complain that AI was not intelligent enough. AI don't understand our words, and over time.
Let's mute him there for a moment. China were absolutely behind with the pickup of large language models. You heard Robin and the interpreters there saying that he was very excited to just discover generative AI in 2023. Keep in mind, Google came out with the Transformer in 2017, GPT-1 and BERT in 2018, GPT-2 in 2019, GPT-3 in 2020. A lot of you were with me with the Lita experiments from 2021 through to 2022. I think we stopped, and she passed away very recently. And of course, mid-2022, GPT-4 was ready in lab and was being shared with their friends. Now we're possibly waiting for the testing of GPT-5 to be completed. Let's grab our inset here again. Well, if we don't get a 2024 Baidu World, at least we get to hang out for a little bit. Hi to Danny in Northern California, where it's 5:20 or 5:30 p.m. now. He's headed to Florida shortly for the AI Med 24 conference. I wonder if Dr. Harvey Castro will be attending that one. For those that did want to know more about ERNIE, thanks for your question there, David. LifeArchitect.ai LIVESTREAM takes us through a bit of a journey. We showed the timeline earlier. It started out in 2019. Stands for Enhanced Representation from Knowledge Integration. Wenxin Yiyan, which is... Oh, I did not even put the translation in there for you. That's not very nice. Oh, let's just throw that straight into... Oh, I used to have Search GPT as my default here, but I don't anymore. So let's go to translate.google.com. Still watching Chinese ads in the background. Let's give it the characters directly there. They've got some really cool names going on in China for their models. Wenxin is not quite the right translation there. Yeah, I don't know if I'd pay that. ERNIE Titan, which was 3.0, was 260 billion parameters. I don't know if I made estimates for the other ones or not. It's very, very difficult to tell now. Chinese labs and our Western labs, very secretive about parameter count, token count. If we go back to ERNIE 3.0 Titan, we knew that it was 260 billion parameters. ERNIE code, we were told... What's that one? 560 million, 0.56 billion. ERNIE 4 I estimated at 1 trillion parameters on 20 trillion tokens. That's pretty easy these days, and the Chinese, of course, have a slightly different tokenization to us. Their characters are, their characters convey just a lot more information than English, which is kind of cool. So they're more compressed than English. ERNIE 4.0 Turbo. I don't think I made an estimate on that one at all. And we're waiting for ERNIE 5, but it won't be today. Here's our latest look at our top models for November. Some small models, waiting for O2, which has got its own analysis page there. And you'll notice in general, I've got China highlighted in red in the lab column here. 01 AI doing some cool stuff. BAAI and Tsinghua doing some amazing things. EMU 3. These guys are new. China Telecom AI Research Institute. It's their first couple of models there. Alibaba with Quen. Must be the most popular model in the world after Llama. Trained on English and Chinese. DeepSeek. Also really popular. SenseTime with SenseNova 5.5, estimated at 600 billion parameters. And maybe this will make it all a little bit easier to see in general. ERNIE 4.0 on the left there in orange. Quen as a medium model, it gets a lot of use. And a large model, it gets a lot of use. And that's all the Chinese models I have on there right now. We stripped that right back. This was getting to the state where we had... What is it, 450 plus models, and it was all, yeah, it was all pretty heavy. Oh, I've overwritten my model count on here, that's sad. Dave's asking about data sources. It's a really interesting point here. I was tracking Chinese models quite a lot in 2021 and 2022, including the data sources. I spent a lot of time on that one. Of course, they have their own everything over there. They've got their own search engine, which is Baidu. I spoke in the last live stream about how Google actually copied Robin Li, who is Baidu's CEO, and his research on RankDex, which became PageRank, which became the Google that we use day to day. LifeArchitect.ai/models will give you a lot of my 2021 research and analysis, including the Chinese datasets and models. Contents of Chinese models here shows us what was happening inside of Pangu Alpha on the left and Udao 2.0 from BAAI on the right. They just use the equivalent of our English sources, different versions of Wikipedia, Sogu, which is a news source, Baidu Baike, which is their equivalent of Wiki. And on the right here, Tencent, you could whip out data from that, the same that you could do from Twitter and Weibo as well. All of their different news agencies, which are the equivalent of what's going on here. And I know for a fact that their Kling model, which is now the most advanced available video model in the world, uses some of the social media stuff and maybe using Bilibili, which is an equivalent or an alternative to YouTube. Let's have a look at Kling for just a moment while we wait. Kuaishou. Let's grab our inset there again. Looks like their entire live stream's fallen over, but that's all right. We're here. You're here. I'm here. Kling.kuaishou.com has become, at least in the kind of hacky community, the de facto standard for text to video. If you want to generate video from text and you're waiting for Sora, this is the big one. They just released 1.5. People are making movies out of it. It's incredible. And I hope you're okay with this sidetrack in the middle of whatever Baidu are doing. Here's me. All right, this is an output from Kling. Just a 5-second output of AI-generated video. Just spectacular. Just a 5-second loop you're looking at. You could put audio on this one from a different model, but Kling, K-L-I-N-G. Make sure you get the Kuaishou version of it. There are a couple of really dodgy, almost like... Lost my words today. It's almost like... not quite a honeypot, but they're trying to put something else in place on iPhone downloads, so on the App Store and on Android downloads as well. Looks like we've got Baidu come back for us, which is kind of nice. Let's go to that.
让我们掌声有请百度创始人李彦宏先生。
I'll be refusing to provide English interpretation live, and I hope we have these guys step in. I also force subtitles on it, but it might be a big ask to have Google give us real-time subtitles. Tremendous.
今年啊，我们把大会的主题定成应用来了。这个呢，基本上可以代表我们对于当前大模型和生成式人工智能时代的一个认知和判断。 大模型呢火了将近2年啊，相关的技术以前所未有的速度进行迭代和创新。从大公司到创业者，再到风险投资，各路人马，大家都在寻找生成式人工智能时代基于大模型的超级应用。我们看到这张图呢，是由一个第三方机构最近发布的 AI 的全景图，基本上展现了大模型和生成式 AI 在整个这个爆发的过程当中，一浪一浪的这个叠加的状态。首先呢，是大家知道 OpenAI 发布了 ChatGPT， 后来百度发布了文心一言。紧接着呢，就是谷歌
Interesting mention of ChatGPT there. I'm sure you've heard of it. You heard of it, and you heard it. Look at how respectful Chinese are of Western culture. We don't see the kind of thing that they're doing here in the opposite way. I haven't noticed this from an Apple presentation or an OpenAI presentation or a Microsoft presentation. We don't have audio interpretation. We have some text interpretation of what's going on, which is kind of cool.
讲呢，大家所期待的这个超级应用还没有出现，甚至有人开始问呢，过去24个月这种全球性的大模型的这个狂热，究竟是一场新的技术革命，还是一轮新的泡沫？作为中国人工智能的扛旗者我想我们是有资格回答这个问题的。大家请看，这张图呢是文心大模型日均调用量的一个变化的曲线图。到今天呢，这个数字已经达到了15亿每天调用15亿。这是一条非常陡峭的增长曲线哈。那么在过去的这个18个月当中
1.5 billion calls to ERNIE bot every day. I'm not sure if they're talking about conversations or tokens. Compare that with the massive stats we've got for ChatGPT. Currently 3 billion uses per month, more than Amazon. And the last stat we had from Sam Altman was kind of shocking. I'll flash this one up quickly for us. This is 200 billion words per day, 139 million words per minute.
而是逐步成为了行业的共识。检索增强的手段呢，英文叫做 RAG 就是 Retrieval Augmented Generation。当然呢，我们是做搜索起家嘛，在这个方面我们理应做得最好。这个手段它的这个意义在哪儿呢？它就是基本让大模型消除了幻觉。你要想基于大模型去开发应用，消除幻觉就是必须的。如果这个模型它总是一本正经的胡说八道，就不会有人信。
For those that joined us yesterday for the live stream on using GPTs and Claude projects, we used retrieval augmented generation to ping the company knowledge base, grab a bunch of PDFs. It's up to about 20 PDFs that you can use at a time for GPTs. And on top of the major, perhaps trillion parameter models like GPT-4, it also tries to bring in data from fresh sources. Oh my god. I don't know if you just noticed the little mistake in the written transcription there. They very quickly corrected it.
我们知道呢，大模型是个概率模型，它生成的内容是有不确定性的。但是呢，当我们采用了 RAG 技术之后，大模型呢就会利用检索得到的这个信息，来指导文本或者答案的生成，从而呢极大的提高了内容的质量和准确性。今天呢，文字层面的 RAG 已经做得很好了，但是图像等多模态的内容和 RAG 的结合还不够。大家请看这张图，这是我们用开源模型生成的一张北京天坛的图片，看上去确实有点像天坛，但是你总觉得哪儿不对。告诉大家，真正的天坛呢长这个样子，是3层，但是模型生成的天坛呢是4层，这就是比较典型的文生图的幻觉现象。这种幻觉现象今天仍然很普遍。所以今天我们的多模态大模型呢，基本上没有什么成规模的应用出来，就是因为幻觉问题没有解决，至少没有像文生文那样的这个 RAG 解决的那么好。今年年初我们决定来解决这个问题。注意就是在整个中文互联网都在为 Sora 的出现而捶胸顿足、上吐下泻的时候，我们去决定解决这个图像生成的幻觉问题。这个问题看起来可能更简单，甚至更枯燥，但是不解决这个问题。
Beating their chest, stamping their feet, vomiting and diarrhea for the release of Sora. Amazing. This looks like it's Baidu live transcription, not interpretation, written transcription that corrects itself as it goes. But it's entertaining me for now with with its little missteps. It's kind of cool. So you're looking at Robin Li, who's the CEO of Baidu. He's worth $8+ billion US. He bailed on his doctorate. He still has a significant master's. He was very active in the 1990s. He gave us the technology behind Google PageRank. He has been one of the smartest people around, but he has been so prolific in the technology arena. The Chinese government actually like him compared to, say, Alibaba, and Baidu really is, or seems to be. Look at this transcript. To remove the smell of what? Baidu remains just an absolutely massive pearl in the oyster of China. Founded in 2000 by Robin, headquartered in Beijing, as we mentioned earlier. 70% market share in China for their internet search engine. So similar to Google, in some ways bigger because they just have the population there. They are listed on the NASDAQ 2005, so they've been there for a good 20 years. They've got their own autonomous driving project called Apollo. They were officially called one of the national champions in AI by the Chinese government in 2017. And a couple of years later, they became the world's largest patent holder for AI. Crazy. ERNIE 4.0 remains the major competitor to GPT-4, and we're watching as we hopefully see some really interesting applications of applications in Shanghai.
简单来说 ，iRAG 的商业价值现在无幻觉、超真实、没成本，而且呢立等可取。试想一下，如果大众的海报生成的车型长得像丰田，那可就糟心了。除了特定的物品 我们还可以生成特定人物啊，跟任意场景的这种背景进行结合的图片。我们以大家熟悉的一个人物爱因斯坦为例，来生成一张他和天坛打卡的这种合影。大家看是不是很像，对吧？就是真的像是照片照出来的。这个呢，就是完全用 iRag 技术生成的。我们用同样的提示词啊，用一些开源模型也生成了几张，大家可以做一下比较。啊，有的你看就是长得完全就不像爱因斯坦，唯一有一个长得像的，那背景呢，根本大家一看也不是天坛。可以说啊，现在在全球范围内，百度的这个 iRag 能力都是最领先的。我们啊还可以
Robin's showing how their major text-to-image model has reduced hallucinations, and I think this is just a really big thing that a lot of companies are working on. If you have a look at my LifeArchitect.ai page, let me bring this up in the foreground. You'll see that we've been trying to reduce hallucinations for a while, and we had Suleiman say that hallucinations will be largely eliminated by 2025. So we've only got about, 40 or 50 days left before we hit that milestone. And Baidu are one of the companies that are helping with removing LLM hallucinations. You'll see the same thing happening with OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Meta, and xAI. That's the big five at the moment.
改变世界的力量。那么 AI 的应用从哪里来到哪里去？下面呢，我想讲两个大的 AI 应用的方向，啊，一个叫做智能体，另外一个是产业应用。我们认为呢，智能体是 AI 应用的最主流的形态，即将迎来它的爆发点。今天，全球所有顶尖的科技公司都很关注智能体。但是啊，像百度这样把智能体作为最重要的战略方向的，并不多。我认为做智能体呢，很像 PC 时代做网站，或者是像移动时代做这个自媒体的账号。不同之处在于，智能体呢更像人，更智能，更像你的销售，啊，像你的客服，像你的助理。智能体可能会变成 AI 原生时代内容、信息和服务的新的载体。为什么这么说？一方面呢，智能体的门槛足够的低啊，谁都能上手。在百度的文心智能体平台上，甚至我们看到有11岁的小学生在创造智能体，然后呢，通过搜索和其他的这个渠道分发出去。另外一方面呢，智能体的天花板又足够的高。
That's a great contrast there with take-up of AI across industry, across enterprise, across government, and in the home. Robin mentioning that even some 11-year-olds in China are creating their own AI agents. I ran a workshop for some of our biggest ASX 100s in Sydney recently. We could see the Sydney Opera House from our beautiful venue. I won't mention the names of some of these ASX 100s that were in there, but I can mention some of the things that they were doing. They had agentized their entire companies in some cases, or sorry, entire divisions. So they had multiple agents performing tasks that a human would normally perform. And in a few cases, they had watcher agents that would check the output before it was kind of pushed to production, so to speak, or allowed to go live. I thought that was really interesting implementation. They had everything from making and receiving phone calls, looking at insurance, writing documentation, taking customers through the funnel or the process, and much more. Agents are absolutely the number one focus at the moment. I'll take you back one more time to lifearchitect.ai/AGI. We have the different levels here underneath my milestones. We've got a list of the different levels. These are pretty recent. DeepMind gave us their levels 1 year ago today. OpenAI gave us their levels just a couple of months ago. And they reckoned at the time we were only at level 1 chatbots. O1, that model brought us to reasoners, level 2. The O1 model brought us to level 2, just if we use very confusing language. And we're already at level 3 agents. And one of the things that has helped us get there is Anthropic's Claude computer use. And we're seeing more of how Baidu are implementing agents right now.
因为每个车型呢，它对应的这个商品详情页啊都是单独的，你得在不同的商品详情页之间来回的切换着看，非常麻烦。而智能体呢，可以直接给你把多个车型的这个动力类型、车身尺寸、续航啊、加速性能等等放在一起，拉出一个表格来，非常直观。 如果你想进一步到线下门店去试驾怎么办？那智能体呢也可以调出来地图帮你一键导航直达目的地。另外呢，还有一点就是智能体跟传统官网不一样的，那就是对于最新的信息或者最个性化的问题的回答。传统的官网呢，它对外界这个市场信息的变化往往不够敏感。 客服人员对于个性化的这种问题呢，也难以给出令人满意的回答，所以呢，通常只能做记录，然后再做电话回访。而智能体可以利用大模型的理解、生成、逻辑记忆等等能力和检索增强能力，快速的从网上获取最新的、最准确的信息，并且在1秒钟之内就给出令人满意的答案。 如果你还有更复杂的问题智能体也可以不断的跟你进行互动、澄清、反问，来最终满足你的需求。不仅是比亚迪像联想沙宣、洋河等等这些个企业，现在都已经拥有了自己的官方智能体。比起传统的官网呢，智能体既是你的品牌顾问，又是你的金牌销售和客服。 既专业又贴心，1对1的服务大幅度的提升了互动营销的效率。比亚迪的这个官方智能体上线以后呢，它的销售线索的转化率提升了119%，联想 AIPC 的智能体9月份互动率提升了89%。 销售线索的转化率。
Had a mention of BYD there, which has just overtaken Tesla in sales, apparently. We also had a mention of Lenovo. Probably don't think of Lenovo as a Chinese company. They have headquarters in Beijing and North Carolina, the US. So it's kind of a Western-Chinese company, originally a Chinese company. Lenovo for laptops, and he's talking about how Lenovo, BYD and others are using large language models as agents to smash through their use cases. Let's have a little quick look at agents in the Western world here. Thanks to I'm Thinking Thoughts, who gave a little query that we'll just grab from here. Agents deeply implemented in lots of ASX 100 companies in very unusual ways and replacing human labour. This one will be in the memo. Visa has deployed hundreds of AI use cases. It's not stopping. And they actually named, and we'll go and dig them up, I think it was about 500 generative AI use cases already in production, with the subsequent effect of laying off 1,400 positions, 1,000 humans in technology positions. Really interesting that they have gone this far with agents or with LLMs in general. Thanks, Shalom, for your comments. Let's jump back into our friend.
他们不仅比我们以前看到的数字人更加自然，动作幅度更大，甚至呢，他在比如说直播场景下说着说着，在合适的时机他就停下来，可以直接回复网友现场提出的问题。这些呢是需要大量的数据积累 和直播互动的规律的这种提炼总结才能做到的。而以前呢，我们是不具备这样的能力的。所以今天的这个数字人直播我们看到呢，在很多情况下，它的转化率已经超越了真人。为什么真人就是不是每个人都像董宇辉那样，对吧？所以平均的水平都不行。
比如画画、弹琴，也可以和他一起做些需要集中注意力的游戏。
想要申请英国留学，拿名校 offer， 你是不是有这些担忧呢？
首先，第一天呢，我会带大家进行正。
These are the latest iteration of Lita AI. And incredibly realistic. I mean, Lita AI was realistic, but look, you've got neck movements here, hand movements, full body movements. Not sure what model or technology they're even using. Lita was essentially a real actor against a green screen, thanks to synthesia.io. And the Chinese, as usual, stepping it up.
它在动作、语言、口型各个方面呢，都非常的自然。如果不说的话呢，你可能都不会意识到它是数字人数字人的好处就是在于它这个脚本也是完全是 AI 生成的，很多比如说数据非常非常详细的数据，真人在直播的时候他是记不住的，对吧？那么数字人完全没有问题，所以他的知识量他的这种实际的这种反应能力，其实很多时候是超越了普通的真人了已经。那我们非常的相信呢，就是虚拟人和真人的这个交互，将能够创造出来巨大的产业价值和社会价值。这里的虚拟人呢，可能就是现实生活当中一位名师的数字分身，也可能是一位名医一位王牌的律师，一位金牌的销售的数字分身。而你呢，从来没有像现在这样离他们如此之近。下面我来讲第3类智能体就是工具类的智能体。工具类智能体其实是个热门赛道比邻 AI 写作、Canva 设计助手、logo 生成器等等，这些都是典型的工具智能体。下面呢，我想给大家演示一个全新的工具类的智能体是由百度文库和百度网盘联合开发的自由画布。我们呢以行业分析师写研究报告作为例子来给大家介绍一下自由画布。在很多人的认知当中呢，行业报告它就是一个图文结合的这种内容，但是今天呢，它可以以另外一种形态有传统的图文、表格，也有像发布会的视频、电话会的录音等等，组成一种更全的多模态的这种报告。在自由画布上可以很好的实现这样的一个效果我们来看一下什么叫做自由画布。首先呢，我们打开百度 APP 搜索智能写作这一类的关键词吧，你就可以找到自由画布的智能体。它呢可以帮你完成从找资料到编辑再到生成和分享全部的任务。第一步呢叫做输入自由。自由画布打通了公域和私域的数据，比如文库上有公开的高质量的文档和片段，外部的这个网页也是公开的这些个内容，都可以一键摘录到自由画布上。
That's a bit of a challenge, isn't it? No live English interpretation, not even any live English transcription as we're speaking here, but some interesting applications and certainly some equivalent of what's happening in Silicon Valley, happening right there in Shanghai and Beijing. I like to see their image model, their text-to-image model. That's kind of cool. And these agent capabilities are really quite interesting. I'm thinking Thoughts was making the point that he's not sure how agents are actually being implemented. And the quick answer to that is that these are very much handcrafted, tailored API calls with checks with validation and verification right the way throughout. There's no off-the-shelf product to do this in the way that these companies were doing this. Of course, there are computer use products. We talked about one of them in the Memo Roundtable very recently, just in the last few days. But let me flick over to Robin in the background so we can wait for some new English transcriptions. But this is not something that you could just go and get off the shelf for now. These are all custom coded implementations. We will see this obviously built into our product very, very soon. But for now, we don't have anything like that. It's roll your own for now. And I think Baidu are showing us exactly what they would be implementing, just not in English as far as I know. We even lost our live English transcription. Oh no, it's back. Baidu AI was having a few little furfies earlier, and if you don't know the American version of furphy, I'll just ask you to look it up. Here we go, back to Baidu.
最后呢，我们叫做分享自由啊，最终生成的内容可以保存在本地啊，也可以上传到用户的个人云上，那么还可以呢用一个链接分享出去，无论是分享到行业交流群、朋友圈或者其他的平台，那么都可以直接打开这个链接啊，观看播放。所以呢，不管你是内容的生产者还是消费者，都再也不用关心文件的格式是什么，我的手机或者电脑有没有相关的应用，内存还够不够等这些琐事了。那么，除了上面这种办公场景，我再给大家演示一个偏向于个人创作场景的案例。大家知道这个今年呢，黑神话悟空很火，那么我们就是想让 AI 帮助我们放飞想象，看看大圣穿越到现代会发生什么。自由画布呢，根据我的要求生成了一个大圣穿越到现代探险的故事。那么我们是不是可以基于这个故事生成一幅漫画呢？当然可以。
Dropped our transcriptions again. I'm sure Baidu are equipped with the best TV directors in the world, but they're not always pressing the Baidu AI button for us. We're playing around with some agents that take in both images and text and allow us to do some things. Not even sure what industry we're in, but interesting to see this working in real life. I think we miss out on a lot of this stuff in just focusing on Silicon Valley when right across the pond, well, a decent flight, this kind of thing's going on.
转成视频我们来看一下。
孙悟空穿越千年，来到了现代。他惊讶地说：“这水镜台竟和俺老孙当年变得一模一样。”大圣对着云。
So this seems like it's building on Kling, which is not by Baidu, it's by Kuaishou. But Baidu's version of Kling, you can feed it an image and it will generate a moving comic video. That's very cool. That's a really interesting implementation of this. And it looks like it's not just the moving video, it's also got the audio, potentially the subtitles as well. And like he was talking about earlier, no hallucinations. So that Pearl Orient Tower there should be robust and rigorous, matching exactly how it looks in real life.
在这个视频里头呢，变成了字幕和配音这样呢，这个故事就更加生动。那如果我们脑洞再大一点，让一个小朋友穿越到花果山，怎么样？其实很简单你只要上传一张小朋友自己的照片就能够让他融入到这个个人定制的画本当中你们看这个自由画布呢，它已经生成了一个小朋友梦游花果山的故事。接下来呢，你点击制作画本就可以了。画面中这个小朋友的神态和真人这个照片可以做得非常的相似。
小雨梦游花果山，在一个宁静的夜晚，小雨做了一个神奇的梦。梦中的他 一睁眼发现自己竟然来到了传说中的花果山。这时，一只小猴子跑了过来，他说：“欢迎来到花果山，我是孙悟空的小徒弟。”小猴子带着小雨穿梭在山林间，给他讲述孙悟空如何大闹天宫，如何保护唐僧取经的故事。
Just looks like Dora the Explorer to me, and very Pixar. And I'm sure that's in the training data set for sure. It also reminds me of Apple's Genmojis, because that is a different implementation of turning something human into something animated.
它能够很好的激发人们的这种灵感和创造力。因为自由画布，每一个孩子都可以成为故事的主角。因为自由画布呢，每一个人都可以成为漫画家，成为短视频导演。而且呢，这个不是期货啊，它是立等可取的现货，是真正服务于创造的心智生产力。我们很快就会正式上线。第4类的这个智能体呢，我们称之为行业智能体，比如说法律、医疗健康、金融、体育、旅行等等领域，都涌现了很多很有用的智能体。我们来看一个法律行业的智能体啊，法刑保。在每个人的工作当中呢，都会遇到各类法律相关的问题，但是不是每个人都能够第一时间找到专业的律师来帮自己支招。这个时候呢，法刑保就很有用了。它呢很受用户的欢迎，在百度的平台上呢，已经回答了超过1660万个问题。我们来看看它具体能做什么。
我有一个朋友昨天被车撞了，现在躺在医院，花了很多钱。报警之后，警察说是对方全责，但对方不给赔偿，该怎么办？
那针对这个情况呢，法刑保给出了4个步骤的指导。先是保留相关的证据，请求交管部门去调解。如果调解失败呢，可以再提起民事诉讼，申请法院的强制执行。那你可能还想知道，如果赔偿能够获得多少赔偿金呢？这个也可以继续咨询。
Lost our translations again for a moment. Looks like they've got a lawyer with a human-like avatar. I didn't take note of her name. Was it Fushing Bao or something very similar? Almost the equivalent of Harvey, which has got the backing of OpenAI, being used by a lot of the big guys now. PwC, massive valuations approaching $1 billion. These were one of the first companies or first groups to integrate GPT-4. Really interesting. Robin's been talking about a multimodal version of ERNIE 4.0 that can take in both audio, video, images, and text. And here we can see it playing around with some multiple choice answers for us in a jurisprudence situation.
事实细节，那么就可以直接去使用。所以呢，法刑保它不仅像一个专业律师一样，可以给出专业的解答，还能够调用大模型的生成能力生成像起诉状这样的文档。当然呢，如果你还想找真正的这个名牌律师去咨询更加复杂的私人的问题，法刑保呢可以按照不同领域的这个需求，给你推荐知名的律师，来提供进一步的帮助。上线半年多以来呢，法刑保为940多万人提供了高效的、可信赖的法律服务，成为了每个普通人专属的 AI 免费律师。目前呢，在文心智能体平台上，已经吸引了15万家企业。
Flashing about like Harvey providing legal advice to 9.4 million people. I think in a population of 1 billion, you just get a lot more access to people and to people willing to try artificial intelligence. And I'm not sure how they're going for Luddites, but I think the acceptance of technology over in China, a little bit better than what's going on here with people putting witches' hats on Waymos in San Fran.
有工具类、行业类的智能体，还有像职场、情感、娱乐等等类型的智能体。百度还邀请英伟达作为我们的技术合作伙伴，共同发起了文心智能体创新大赛。在大赛当中呢，也涌现出来不少非常有价值的智能体应用。前面我讲了智能体，下面呢我来讲一下 AI 这个大模型的产业应用。大模型如何在产业落地？如何为千行百业的企业创造增量价值？这是我们一直在探索的问题。过去1年半左右，我们看到在金融、能源、教育、招聘、公共服务等等各个领域，大模型跟场景结合，在降本和增效2个方面都取得了实实在在的成果。百度智能云是我们构建智能产业生态的主要依托。目前在百度智能云的千帆大模型平台上，我们已经累计帮助用户精调了3.3万个大模型，开发出了77万个企业应用。百度智能云已经拥有了中国最大的大模型产业落地的规模。目前呢，1半以上的央国企以及很多民营企业都在联合百度智能云进行 AI 创新。下面我给大家讲2个例子一个呢是大型企业的这个代表，百胜百胜中国大家知道是国内最大规模的这个餐饮公司我们经常光顾的肯德基、必胜客这些都是百胜旗下的这个品牌。百胜和百度呢一直有很良好的合作最早呢我们在门店选址评估这个方面呢，我们帮助百胜完成了新增1000家门店的这个选址，大幅度提升了选址的质量和效率。在客服领域我们
You can really see the cooperation between Western worlds and China here. The English transcript said that he or Baidu often patronize KFC. Not surprising. They're not the across the pond country that has KFC for Christmas. That would be Japan. But very interesting to see the Western world pushed into China. I noticed that while I was a permanent resident of China, that there were all these brands, and they must have gone through massive approval process, and even day to day they could be kicked out at any time. But you do have your Starbucks and your KFC and your Pizza Huts and your McDonald's there as standards, and that's just to name a few of the brands. Of course, we still have 2 disparate regions, and that's evident here in this presentation, that we just don't hear about this kind of thing outside of, well, the memo and my analysis. You just don't find this in the news, and yet it may be that Baidu give us AGI before anyone else. It's certainly a possibility. And how can it be that we don't hear anything about this one? So this is my map of where AGI may be born. Baidu at the top there over in Beijing. OpenAI probably at the top in the West, followed by Anthropic, followed by Google. Microsoft's MAI maybe has bowed out.
各种各样的可能性。这是百胜的例子。我们再讲一个互联网行业的这个例子智联招聘呢是国内领先的这个招聘平台招聘平台呢，它的主要工作就是把这个合适的人匹配到合适的岗位上去。 过去呢，这个工作大量的依靠人工来完成，人工的给岗位打标签儿，人工的去筛选这个海量的简历，人工的去分析求职者的对话，不仅呢费时费力，效果也难以保证。
It's a fantastic application of large language models. We've seen it in education. We've got, millions of students now writing their essays with AI, and maybe thousands of teachers grading the essays with AI. Baidu are talking about, with their collaboration with Zhaopin, which is a recruiting site, maybe a little bit like Manpower here in the Western world, to actually filter through their millions of resumes and match the right person with the right job. What a great way of actually applying generative AI to read that resume, to sort it, not just look for keywords, but look for tone and context and make sure that those jobs, that job roles are matched to the correct person.
单位的这个招聘效率和质量。目前呢，百度和智联招聘的合作已经成功沉淀出了一系列的这个提示词模板，并且在数万条的这个实际数据当中呢，得到了验证人岗匹配的这个平均准确率呢，已经高达93%，而大模型的使用成本呢，下降了大约90%，为招聘行业带来了全新的变革，让每一位求职者都能够更轻松地找到心仪的工作，让每一家企业都能够高效地获取。
93% match rate of person to job role. Wouldn't that be nice to apply that to dating or to meetup groups or to pet matching? I bet you can think of a few dozen more applications of somewhere where a match rate of a very high percentage would be worthwhile. Robin's going to keep talking in the background there. I'm going to grab a little discussion point that came out from Zebby here. Let's grab that. We'll throw that in the background. We'll put Robin up here. Zebby says, what do you think of the new benchmark for math that came out recently? When do you think AI will surpass it? My friends at Epoch AI gave us Frontier Math. It's a new benchmark for evaluating LLMs, and particularly reasoning of LLMs using maths as a subject area that's kind of easy to test because it's black and white, right or wrong. That's not always the case with some of these questions, and it's the reason the MMLU's error rate is so high. Frontier Math is amazing. Terry Towers come out and said hopefully it stands up for a couple of years. I think he said for a few years, and then Jack Clark said for more than a couple of years. Let's see, will this hold up for more than 24 months? I don't know. Fields Medal winner Tim Gowers said they appear to be at a different level of difficulty from IMO problems. All looked like things I had no idea how to solve. Compare this new benchmark, it's called Frontier Math, with my basis design. That project was suspended. It just became too difficult to create questions that had never been solved before but were verifiable by at least one person. We couldn't actually find enough smart people in the world to verify questions at IQ of 200 and above. So that's Terry Tao and maybe a couple of others. But Frontier Math's a big one. Meta AI's Gaia is another big one. And the GPQA is still pretty good. I think that'll stand up for a few more months as well. If you want to read more about this one, epochiq.ai/frontiermath/the benchmark. My thoughts are that this thing will not last. It's got very, very good questions. 98.3% of them are unsolved problems. If you are a Memo subscriber, you will be getting access to some pretty big news in the next few days. Thank you very much to the Memo full subscribers that participated in the roundtable and helped me out with a final check of something as big as my AGI countdown, LifeArchitect.ai/AGI, and it will speak to more of how we benchmark really the equivalent of peak intelligence.
接收到指令之后呢，这个屏幕上会出现0号智能体就是这个小组长。 它啊是整个智能体团队的核心啊，负责来规划和调度。它呢把任务啊拆解成了需求确定、内容生产、工程开发这3个步骤，并且呢告诉我它会召唤啊各个智能体来协作完成这个任务。
Oh, we lost our English transcriptions again for a moment there. I can understand just a little bit of it. My Mandarin is out of practice. And a little bit disappointing that we don't have a complete English overlay here. I'm sure that it's something that Baidu AI could do. I know that the Western models, including Anthropic and GPT, could absolutely do it. I don't have a very good screenshot of that, but I could try grab a low-res version and see what we could do with Claude. Come and join me while he's talking in the background there. We'll keep that up there. No, Dropbox will be fine. Let's see what we can do here. It's the second time I've done that. Alright, this is a very low-res screenshot of what we were just watching, and we can see that Claude would be able to translate this into English pretty quickly. It's a really bad example of what an LLM could actually do. It's far more powerful than just doing translation. Claude gives it a red hot go, doesn't do too badly. And the same thing for ChatGPT. I don't try and be grammatically correct with this kind of thing. I reckon we could have easily done live translation of this kind of thing.
对，大家看到这个屏幕上呢，智能体在写代码，但是呢，你完全不需要看懂这边这一侧的东西，你只要看得懂那边那些个人话就行了。那么等到它写完之后呢，我们还需要有一个智能体出来，4号智能体。4号智能体叫做质检员啊，它呢发现了一个 bug， 所以呢，它把程序员智能体再叫回来，再重新写啊，或者改这个代码。可以看到呢，质检员智能体会利用反思能力啊，运行测试代码，看看这个代码是不是能够跑通。现在呢，这个智能体已经把代码修改好了，自动生成了邀请函。但是
This looks really similar to Claude's artifacts, and also really similar to GPT's canvas, although GPT doesn't do the code part of it. Really interesting to see how China takes inventions in some cases from Western countries and often improves them. Sorry, Canvas also does code as well. So ChatGPT Canvas, it looks like, or Claude Artifacts, where you've got a separate window writing code for you.
在我们的这个统计表格当中了。这样一个发布会的邀请系统啊，从你开始到最后结束，总共只用大概3分钟的时间。用户呢不需要写1行代码就可以完成。所以整个这个过程呢，体现了秒搭这个产品它的3个特性啊。第一是无代码编程啊，第二呢是多智能体的协作，第三呢是多个工具的调用。无代码编程呢是由大模型这个直接生成代码，不需要人写1行代码，所以这个门槛就大大的降低了，每一个人都可以去做啊，每个人都能上手。多智能体的协作呢，是基于文心大模型的思考、规划等等这些能力啊，实现呢对于不同类型的智能体的调度、编排。 那么这个
More use of ERNIE, in this case, for no code, which is a huge thing in China. I don't see it as such a huge thing in the big AI labs, OpenAI and Anthropic. I mean, Sam has talked about it before. He said something like, finally, we'll be able to create iOS apps for free. Why would you pay an iOS developer as much as, or maybe it was about comparing an iOS developer with a plumber. I remember that term. And we see kind of no code to a certain extent inside the ChatGPT and Claude interfaces, but this looks like it's something different. They're implementing it across modalities and they're really leaving out the code to create that application from scratch.
一整套的系统的这个搭建。除了上面就是展示的这个邀请系统啊，秒答是可以在任意场景下做任意的应用啊。应用的复杂度呢，它会随着我们技术的提升不断的提升啊。最早开始的时候，可能它只能做一些比较简单的，比如说编程呢，可能200行、300行程序它能做到。那么以后随着基础模型的能力提升，以及秒答本身技术的这种演进啊，那么它就可以做越来越多的、越来越复杂的这个事情。这意味着什么？这意味着你不需要去招募项目经理、设计人员、开发人员、测试人员等等，你自己就可以指挥多个智能体来协同完成任务。也就是说啊，只要有想法，你就可以心想事成。我们将迎来一个前所未有的只靠想法就能赚钱的时代。
Love that quote. As long as you have an idea, you can get what you want. It was Aleph Alpha in Germany who said, large language models can solve any problem that can be solved using language. And we've got Robin Li here, CEO of Baidu, saying essentially the same thing. I don't know what Meowda is, and we haven't really defined that term, and he's not using that word in his language, but the transcript is talking about Meowda.
会说话就能做出应用来。它对于人类工作效率的提升，怎么说都不为过。那现在呢，你就可以去排队预约，我们明年1季度啊发布秒答，大家可以试用。今天呢，我用大概1个小时的时间吧，回顾了过去24个月全球生成式人工智能变革带来的应用的大爆发，也发布了文心 iRag 和无代码秒答这2个技术，展示了智能体、产业应用2大应用方向。可以看出来 ，AI 应用的时代是真的来了。当然啊，在人类这个信息技术变革的不同的历史时期，应用出现的样貌也不一样。在 PC 时期，它是一个一个的软件和网站；在移动时期，它是一个一个的 APP 和被关注的账号；在 AI 时代，应用的主要形态呢，就是智能体。
The translation of app really never made it across to the mainland or Taiwan. They call WhatsApp WhatsApp, and here we've got Robin talking about APPs instead of apps. The differences in language are just fascinating to me. We actually do have a lot of Chinese loanwords in English. We may not notice it, and vice versa, of course. You can see the use of English through his keynote. And he'll actually just burst into English for some of the references to specific AI technical language. I think we're pretty close to wrapping up here.
而应该被创造 ，AI 时代应用创造世界。所以，请大家和我一起见证 Applications Creating the World。谢谢大家。
Must have been listening to me there talking about the use of English. That was Baidu World 2024. Robin Lee, the CEO of Baidu, 8-time billionaire, giving us a view of some of the applications of artificial intelligence, including advanced uses of AI. We're going to hear from the CTO now, but I won't be around for that one. I think I've pretty much been Chinesed out for it was the morning, now it's afternoon, 12:30 p.m. here in sunny Brisbane. I'll be back next week or in about 6 days for our live stream. Once again, that'll be a full-on live stream, not as casual as this one, and you do need to be in the memo. We've got a big announcement coming up that will hit the media. If you liked my AGI countdown, you want to see what's coming up next, jump in. Thanks for joining me today with your feet up, hopefully, and seeing what's going on over in Shanghai. All the way from Brisbane, all the way from Northern California, Oregon, and just up there in the Sunshine Coast. I'll see you in 6 days, and yeah, thanks for joining. See you soon.
Did you see the memo about this?
Yeah, I have the memo right here.
Superintelligence is unfolding at lightning pace. Read my industry-grade analysis of AI that matters as it happens in plain English, the memo.
Yeah. Did you get that memo?
Yeah, I got the memo.
Get the inside look as AI models are embodied into humanoids. AI's IQ increases to nearly perfect, and bleeding-edge use cases expand to the entire world.
Yeah. Didn't you get that memo?
Editions are sent to subscribers at Fortune 500s, major governments, and people like you. LifeArchitect.ai/memo.
I have the memo.